Chapter 12, Contracts and Legal. I want to start off this chapter talking about selecting a lawyer and working with an attorney. This is very important because I think sometimes we get the task of a lawyer confused with what we actually need. When hiring an attorney, that attorney is being hired to work for you, to give you the best outlook on what it is that you are requiring to get into an agreement and a deal with another company or individual. An attorney's job is not to tell you what to do, but to only put you in position to win with the things that you are wanting to do. I remember having a conversation with Jay Prince, and he gave me some of the most brilliant advice that I ever had since I've been in this music business. He told me, he said, when I hire an attorney, I am hiring an attorney to extend the law to the furthest line that it can be extended to, for the efforts of what he wants in a contract, and to make that agreement where it's solely in his favor. That's what business is about. And that's what negotiating is about. A lot of people will take that aspect and turn it into something that is not good. And will also say that somebody's trying to disenfranchise them. But in fact, we are all equal when we are negotiating an agreement. We all are equal when we sign the contract. If you allow anything in an agreement to be in favor of the person that you are negotiating with, then you are responsible for that loss. You have to carry some of that burden of signing a bad deal because you accepted the terms. You can't make excuses for not doing your own groundwork and making sure that you're on an even and level playing field with whomever you are doing negotiations on contracts with. That is, in fact, the job of your lawyer, to protect your interest in an agreement. A lawyer can never protect anything that he doesn't know about. You can't hire an attorney and have them look over the contract and not give them the bullet points of the things that you need in this agreement to make you feel whole when you sign it. That's a problem. And that's where we make a mistake when we think that the lawyer is supposed to advise us on what we want in an agreement. They are hired to negotiate what we want in an agreement. You can't negotiate or do a business without understanding the rules of engagement that you have to have in order to be successful, and knowing what the purpose of any person that you hire to represent you, whether it's a lawyer or a manager. You have to know what their position is and what it calls for and what you need out of them in order to be successful. When we hire a lawyer, we still have to understand the terms that we are agreeing to. Even when hiring a manager, we have to know what that manager negotiation skills are and what type of knowledge do they have for this business. Most of the time, getting into a bad agreement is solely on you. Because if you don't do the right groundwork and you don't have the right support team around you, those poor decisions that you made is giving you the worst outcome that you can have. You can never just depend on anyone when it comes to your livelihood. Because after the job is done by the lawyer, after the manager has negotiated terms, it's up to you to understand what it is that you're actually getting into and what your responsibilities are going to be. Because you are the only person that's going to be responsible for those terms in that contract once you sign the dotted line. Now let's talk about contracts. It is always necessary to have paperwork ready, and always recommended to have an attorney to draw up the paperwork that you need that's going to benefit you and your terms, especially if you're spending money with an artist, or you signing someone else, or you hiring a manager, or you doing split sheets with the person you did a song with. This has been the theme of this entire book. You always have to have those agreements on demand every single time you do business, and understand what agreement that you need. A work for hire is an agreement that you give to a person that you are paying a one-time fee for services that they render to you, whether it's writing a hook, putting an instrument on a track that you produced, etc. That's when a work for hire is effective and also fair. A licensing agreement. If you are licensing a track to someone, you need to have a producer agreement that has licensing language in the contract, and know the difference of what you are releasing rights to. This is including work for hire language that are used in a lot of producer decks that you receive from record labels. And again, that is the normal rule that they use in those producer agreements. But you have to be careful to understand that you can have a work for hire clause in a contract for a master and still have ownership of your track by itself. You have to make sure that you are reading the language in these contracts and you're not giving up ownership and rights away of your composition in that contract. It's kind of tricky because it looks like a work for hire, but it's really not a complete work for hire. There are contracts with language that has work for hire for the master and the composition included as well. When you have a contract that says composition included, that means that they will own the master with the song and the lyrics together, and the music separately as well. The language to look for when you're not giving the rights of your composition away will state excluding the composition, which gives you the right to retain all of the rights to your music separately. And it's beneficial. If someone wants to use an instrumental of a song that you produce and you have the rights to the music by itself, then you can offer to let them use the music that's not included or not obtained from that master, and you won't have to share the profits of that licensing because it wasn't part of the master. So there's a lot of beneficial reasons why you would want to keep ownership of your compositions. It's always wise to keep as much of your intellectual property as you can, especially as a producer, because we don't have a lot of strong points when it comes to these contracts outside of our publishing advances and things of that nature. As I explained in earlier chapters, we are not involved in negotiation for masters and the use of masters and the pay from the masters because they are deemed work for hire, which excluded us from any profits, any monetizing whatsoever when it comes to licensing that master. So you have to be very clear what you're signing and understand what it is. In fact, if you are working with an artist that you are developing, as unethical as people would make this seem, I would always go for 50% owner of a master because I'm putting all of my time and effort to build this artist, and I deserve to have ownership of the master as well. Let's get into the management agreements and the expectations of hiring a manager and signing a contract with a manager, and the importance of a manager. You can't have a manager and not give them the percentages that they need to thrive and make you more money. This has been another theme of my book. A person will work with you and work hard for you when they know that they are going to contribute in the profits and make money with you every single time that they make a move with you concerning your business. It's never wise to lowball a manager percentages because that manager would be limited and not working as hard as they can because they are working at such a low rate. The best rates that you need for management floats around 15, anywhere to 30%, just depending on the access that that manager has. And I've seen a lot of times, and I know a lot of people may get upset about this as well, but a manager is not your investor. It's not their job to put money in your hand to help you with your projects. That's not what a manager does. A manager's job is to negotiate and put you in position to make money and to help you build relationships to make your business thrive. That's their job. So never look for a manager that's going to invest in you. That's an investor. It's not wise to cross those two lines together because you're putting yourself in a dire position. Because now you have an investor that's a manager that's getting anywhere from 15 to 20% of your money, but is also in position to recoup all money that he's invested into you, which is going to make it very difficult for you to have any type of profits or collect any money before recoupment is done, which will sometime stress your relationship and end your business relationship with that person. But it goes back to knowing what the purpose of that person's job is and what the purpose of their position is. Goes back to knowledge and understanding. Let's get into the artist agreements. Signing recording artist agreements are tricky because there are so many different details and options in these contracts. You're already starting off with a 360 deal, which can be beneficial if you're a beginner and you're just starting and this is your first contract. As I've said before, when a person is in position to make money with you, they are going to make you priority. But here's a few bullet points of things to look for in an artist agreement that are good and bad. Let's talk about terms. If you find yourself signing a 1-year agreement with a record label and there are 7 option periods in that contract, then you're essentially signing for at least 7 to 8 years. That's a long time to be locked down in a contract with anybody for anything or any reason. And a lot of people will get into these agreements and not understand that it's not 1 year. You're actually signing for multiple years, because there are options in those contracts that can be initiated in the favor of the record label. You should always go into a contract, especially an artist agreement, that has bullet points in it, that have stipulations. If this happened, this will happen. If this doesn't happen, I can get released. It's never a good idea to sign a incredibly long-term agreement with no one, especially without having options to upstream in pay or the position in the contract. Because once you sign the contract, then you are saying that you agree with those terms and you accept every single thing in that contract. And then it's too late to bitch and complain about how bad the contract is. You should make sure that there are certain stipulations that give you access to your masters at a certain time period, that there's an upstream to the percentages of publishing that you get out of the songs that you record on that contract, and that contract will again upstream with your success. I've seen so many people and so many artists that go to court and fight with their record labels because the success came quicker than they thought it would, and now they're understanding that they are giving so much away and not benefiting from the success the way that they wanted to. But you can't blame the record label for that, because you agreed and signed that you accepted the terms. And that's where the lawyer comes back in. You have to make sure that you're negotiating the terms of an agreement that are going to be beneficial for you, and make sure that it's something that you can grow into. If you find yourself in an agreement that does not have any room for you to benefit and grow with your success, you're going to be unhappy, and you're going to begin to fight to get more equality in that agreement. So it's always best to start off with strong negotiations and completely understanding the terms that you are agreeing to. I will be giving you a contract pack that will come with this book, so that you can have examples on all the contracts that you would need to conduct your business. But it's always wise to take these agreements and hire an attorney to customize these contracts to your exact needs. It's never wise to try to use a cookie cutter system when it comes to contracts. That's why they have lawyers. I'm guilty of it. I know it's a lot of people guilty of it, that think that they can go in and copy and paste a contract together and give it to someone. That's not a wise thing to do. It's more beneficial to learn the terms of these agreements and read over them so that you can understand better how to put your contract together, how to negotiate a contract, and to make sure that you are understanding every single thing in it. This is why I am giving you guys copies of these contracts, so that you can gain knowledge from them. I'm not necessarily giving you the contracts to use them. So please keep this in mind.